I can't describe how much I love that place. Swimming with seals every day, living without electricity, living without hot water, living with candlelight at night time. Hello everyone, Bertie Films here, and this is a video that I did not plan to make, but I am making. I'm actually working on a documentary at the moment that's going to be quite large, and I wanted to give like not a trailer, but almost like a precursor video to that. The topic of this video is about the islands of Ireland, the islands of Bere. So there actually is 83 offshore islands in Ireland. Okay, to some places that's not a huge amount, places like the Philippines and like Greece and places like that. But did you think that there was 83 offshore islands? 23 of which are inhabited, and the largest of them is called Achill Island with an area of 148 kilometers squared. Many of the islands are much smaller, with an area below 30 kilometers squared. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've done a recent video on Inishbiggle and the decline in population and basically the death of the island. So my next video is going to be about Blasket Islands. A part of it is the evacuation, but actually I'm going to be telling the story about the mystical qualities of that place. There is something just unbelievable about the Blasket Islands that is very hard to describe, but in the documentary I'm going to go in depth into it because there is this fascinating history that a lot of people won't know about that goes back a long time, and because of these books that were written by the islanders and other people that visited the island in the 20th century. Now, up until that point, there were unbelievable storytellers, and this is how those books came about. Now, I'm not going to go into huge detail about that. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel specifically and following me everywhere for the clips. But I will be going in depth into the Blasket Islands video. This is just an overview about the islands of Ireland because I've been to a few, not a huge amount, but enough to be blown away by them. And the main ones are Skellig Michael and Bere Island, and obviously the Blasket Islands. Now, I have a friend living on Valentia Island, an old colleague, and I've been on that island. Now, that is land bridged, as well as some other islands, like Achill Island is land bridged, and actually the Inishbiggle Island is right next to Achill Island. Valentia Island, I've been on that island quite a few times as well. I think at the moment there's around 400 people living there. And islanders are fascinating people, and this is something that I've come to learn because I was fascinated by the Blasket Islands because I just grew up in that area. Whenever I notice islands, there is this kind of awe. At the beginning of my film Jacob Rescued the Angel, you can see Lambay Island, and this is a strange thing because there was actually wallabies living on that island that were brought there from the Baring family. I've done a video ages ago about that. So it's just insane. It's a huge story. You can see from Rush Beach, you can see that there's actually houses and stuff like that. And you can see the same in the Blasket Islands. And even say going down from South Kerry down into Bere Peninsula, there is this little island on the way, and it's owned. There's like houses on there. I think I would love to have a house on an island, actually, to be honest with you. There's something beautiful about the isolation and stuff. And something I should mention as well is that I spent 3 weeks on Blasket Islands back in 2018 during one of the hottest summers ever. And it was just an unbelievable story. Like I really, and I'm going to talk about that in the documentary. I can't describe how much I love that place so much. Swimming with seals every day, living without electricity, living without hot water, living with candlelight at night time. I was helping in the cafe there and stuff. There's a cafe on the island, and I ended up staying there because I was on a grant for a writer's grant, and I ended up staying for an extra 2 weeks because I fell in love with the place. So it's just insane. And I traversed the whole island. I never got to go out to the other islands in terms of getting on them, but I did go out to Inishbiggle, which is owned by Charlie Haughey's family. Inishbiggle, this is something I'm going to get into in a documentary, but I had a kind of a mystical experience with that place where we were going around on the boat. So this was actually before I went on to the Great Blasket Island. It was a year before, and I said that year I was going to actually go and stay on the island. I ended up staying on the island for 3 weeks the following year. But when we were going around on the tour boat, coming around the Inishbiggle and around it, we just looked up and there's like deer standing on the cliff looking down. Now I was aware of these deer on this island. It's kind of like the wallaby situation on Lambay Island. Like, why is there deer on this island? These deer were brought out by Charlie Hawley himself. And in fact, my father knows the person that has the rights and who is the person in charge of going out culling those deer, because if they don't cull the deer, it can get very messy. Kind of like culling the deer in Kerry in general. So there's these really unbelievable endearing qualities about all the islands of Ireland. Bere Island is another place, obviously connected to the mythology of the Cailleach or the Cailleach, the Hag of Bere. You know, there's a standing stone on that island that has mythical stories attached to it. Skellig Michael, which I was on before Star Wars went there. This is another reason why I think there is this kind of magnetism to these islands. Like, why did Star Wars pick Skellig Michael? Like, why? Of all the islands in the world, why did it pick that one? And actually, it was a brilliant moment to see Kerry in the Star Wars films, even though the Star Wars films were crap, the recent ones. That actually, the one where Skellig Michael is at the end, the Rise of the Sky. What was the name of the first of the trilogy of the recent ones? That was probably the best one, even though it wasn't great, but it was still the best one. That's when Skellig Michael was actually in the film, and it wasn't like a set. There's actually a wailing stone, the wailing woman, that's on Skellig Michael as well. This is a huge mythological connection. And this brings us to like the fairy essence of these islands as well, because you have this thing in Irish mythology and folklore that actually encompasses islands in their mythology. You can really go right back to the land of Tirnanog as well, because in the land of Tirnanog, they don't just go into the other worlds, they actually traverse seas and things like that, and they go travel for days, and they end up like in kind of in an island situation. Now there is different variations on the stories, but a lot of the islands can be viewed like Tirnanog. And then a lot of people would say like the mythical island of High Brazil off the west coast of Ireland. And a lot of people in the comments would say, is it Tirnanog? Is this like some sort of reference to Tirnanog? This is the kind of unbelievable, beautiful qualities to the islands of Éire, to Ireland. A lot of people come to Ireland and they never really visit the islands. But if you can get islands in as well, you're going to be really capturing something, because I haven't been to most of the islands, so I'm like, I really want to go to a load of more islands. Of course, there's Tory Island as well. In one of my ancestral homes of Donegal, Tory Island is the ancient home of the Fomorians, which are a huge part of our mythological stories, the mythological invasions of Ireland. So the Fomorians will be connected to Tory Island. This is what I'm talking about. The islands of Ireland are very mystical. You know, there's magic there. And when you go out to Skellig Michael, you're saying to yourself, how did they traverse the rocks, the cliffs? How did they get up there? And then this all links into the aesthetic lifestyle of the Christian monks as well. And I really love the early Christian monks. I have a hard time with the criticism of Christianity, especially in the sense of like, when they came into Ireland. I think there is a very natural progression into Christianity. I think the Druids essentially turned into the Christian monks and became the Christian saints and things like that. That's what a lot of people would think, that the magical powers of the early saints could be because of the Druid-like activities, So this kind of thing about going off into the wilderness and things like that, this is a very Druidic kind of practice as well in the early times of Ireland, and the Christian monks would have carried on this kind of thing. And then of course, there's the connection to the Vikings and how the Vikings came and started, raiding these islands and things like that. Of course, this is not really mystical, but this is a part of our story, a part of the shaping of Ireland. Robert the Bruce went to Rathlin Island in escaping the English forces as well, and was writing to his Gaelic brothers, as he would have called them, or at least alluded to, calling us one family. Rathlin Island was respite for him in terms of his trying to come up with his plans for Scotland and Ireland. Also, as well, there are a lot of stories down through the years in our folklore, in our mythology, and in our history of shipwrecks, of people, you know, resting on islands. This happens a lot down through the years. Blasket Islands with the Spanish Armada, of course Skellig Michael as well, and of course this happens across all the western coast of Ireland, especially with the likes of the Spanish Armada. So there is this unbelievable nature to these places. For instance, the Blasket Island, which I will go into in depth in the documentary, was one of the last bastions of pure Irish. And actually one of the guys that works on the island, or at least he has a business on the island, he said to me, now I can't find any references for this, but he did say to me that the Irish people were speaking more Spanish than English for a long time because they had more dealings with the Spanish because of how many Spanish would pass by and things like that, and the Spanish people coming to stay on the island because of shipwrecks and stuff like that. Now, this is all hard to fact check, honestly, but it's not outside of the realms of possibilities, especially when you listen to the history. And this just adds to the lore and the mystique and the beautiful stories of these places. Like all of these islands, obviously I have a bias towards Blasket Islands being from Kerry. I think the Blasket is almost like in its own kingdom. It's a kingdom of words, of stories, and this is something that I've been inspired by because there are certain books written on that with certain similar titles, not to take credit for that. That is why I'm very interested in getting this out there to you, because I want you to know my plans, and also I want you to know my kind of thinking as well. Like, I really think that if you're coming to Ireland, you should try to get an island in as well, if you can get any island in. Some of them are way more accessible than others. Some of them, like for instance the Blasket Islands and Skellig Michael, and many others, are nearly impossible to get on unless you're fit, unless there's good weather. Unfortunately, there's no disability access on Skellig Michael and on Blasket Islands. Unfortunately, it's just not, there's no harbours there. So this is another thing as well, is that they're not fully accessible. This is another part of the mystique and the kind of lore around these islands, is that they're hard work. When you get onto the Blasket Islands, you're on literally a steep hill, like literally a steep hill all the way up to the accommodation and to the village. And I'm not even exaggerating, like you would be struggling a little bit, like. So yeah, but not all islands are like that. There are certain ones with land bridges, as I said. And Castletown Bere has a ferry going across the Bere Island every day. Now and there's tours as well to Lambay Island, to the islands in North County Dublin. Place I actually need to go to Lambay Island. If anybody's watching this from Lambay Island, from the tour operators or anything like that, they want to get in touch with me, or if there's any tour operators that want to get in touch with me about visiting any of these islands, I'm open to suggestions always. So make sure you get in touch as well. So this has been my meant to be 10-minute video, but it's probably going to be longer, but I'm glad I made it. If you're interested in seeing the Blasket Island documentary, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell and hit that like button, and make sure you leave a comment underneath. I'm going to reply to absolutely everyone as best I can. And also my shop is going to be opening up soon enough with new merch. All of that helps Bertie Brosnan Films, helps create more videos for you. You can find all my links as well, www.bertiebrosnanfilms.com. You can see that in the description as well. Also, you can sign up to my mailing list and get a bunch of free PDFs if you want as well. Filmmaker by Heart, the first 3 copies of The Forgotten Prince, and an ancestry guide if you sign up to my mailing list. Goramila Mahagwiv Galer Makorja, Be Me the Kaint, Slán go fóill.